Self-Publishing Podcast, episode number 163.
This episode of
Welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast.
Well, you want to try that again here. Let me go ahead and doing good. I'm gonna start a new... All right, YouTube, reset. Okay, so let's try this again. Self-Publishing Podcast, episode number 163.
This episode of the Self-Publishing Podcast is brought to you by 99 Designs. The online marketplace helps you get outstanding book cover designs at an affordable price. Start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP. Enjoy a free Power Pack upgrade valued at $99.
Welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, where if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. And now, here are your hosts, three guys who sometimes use their powers for good instead of evil: Johnny, Sean, and Dave.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, the podcast that follows three full-time authors as we attempt to change the face of indie publishing. Join us and our trailblazing guests as we shove aside boundaries, freely experiment, and occasionally screw up. I'm Johnny B. True, and my co-hosts are Sean Platt and David Wright. You know, I'm really looking forward to, we've talked a little bit about the rebirth of Self-Publishing Podcast to kind of clean it up. And we were figuring out today, because we're going to do a demo episode, and I said, well, so do we still do the intro? Do we? And Sean's like, no, I think that she'll just handle it for us, and I won't have to deal with this where I'm starting the music at the wrong time and all sorts of.
We're getting fancy. We're going to be fancy.
Can we get to the point where somebody just makes the Hangouts for us and we hop it like Jacob used to do, and you know they'd just be done, and I wouldn't have to spend 20 minutes because my computer is being an asshole.
I think that would be awesome. Hey Maya, are you interested in that? Does that sound like fun?
It's really it's easy if you have a competent setup, which I do not. All right, so today's guest is going to be Justin Sloan. He works at Telltale Games, and I titled the podcast Writing Well, Keeping Your Day Job, because I thought that was probably one of the things he mentioned that would be most interesting to this audience. But he's got a lot to talk about, and we wanted to talk to him. Dave in particular is our gamer, and wanted to talk about game story and all sorts of other cool stuff that our other guests haven't done.
Randomly, Dave, Cindy asked me to ask you this morning if you're looking forward to Fallout 4, if that's a game you play.
Of course. Looking forward to it is an understatement. When they played the announcement video, I literally had an orgasm.
What? Literally?
Literally.
Wow. I won't tell her that part. Yeah, Cindy never talks about video games ever, especially something like Fallout. But she said it looks really cool. I was just wondering if Dave was interested. What's the most random question?
I love that series. That is phenomenal.
Is that the one that's going to take place in Vegas?
No, there was already a Fallout New Vegas. This one, I believe, will be in Baltimore, I think. It is the other Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas are just absolutely just perfect games.
Games.
Let's just say when Fallout 4
no need to do any more, people. They're done.
Fallout 4 comes, I am going to
So will you.
I'm going to fake my death, and I'm going to be absent for a few months. I won't be on this show. I won't be writing. Yeah.
What's the release date?
They haven't said yet. E3 is coming up next week, so more boner time. E3 is coming up next week, and I believe they will announce it then. If it's this October or November, which I'm hoping it is, judging from the video, I'm going to be so excited.
So, for you folks listening at home, no CI titles in the fourth quarter of this year.
It's going to be a long drought.
If you're looking forward to White Space 3, it will not be happening.
My son is.
I gotta play.
My son is making a game, so look for that in another 20 years or so. It's just gonna be one of those like lifetime things.
Fallout 5.
No, it does, but I don't remember it, and plus I wouldn't want to say it anyway because somebody will steal it. And but we kind of geeked out a little bit because he was talking about the story in it. Now I'm not a gamer, and so the idea I know that games have stories, but I kind of like. I mean, I played games where you shoot things, and it's like who cares about the story? But God. He's like way into it, and he's like, well, there's this and this, and I was just like, oh yeah, that's my boy.
No, stories are getting way more sophisticated in games. It's definitely an area to get into at some point for us.
You guys would love BioShock and BioShock Infinite. They take place. Well, the first one takes place in an underwater utopian, like Ayn Rand sort of just a city that's just gone mad. In the Infinite version, that one is up in the sky. It's basically just taking things that kind of you guys write about and twisting them in such a way. It's just so immersive. It's amazing.
I absolutely love the concept. And when I used to be a gamer before I had kids. The last game
they ruin everything, don't they?
Well, the last game I really, really dug into was Grand Theft Auto Vice City. I played that game a lot. I loved that game. But the problem with games is they take.
When the fuck do you play them? Because that's the
Right.
way I feel. I'm like, this looks interesting, but when the fuck am I gonna find
And the
it?
good games, it's not like you could pick up and play. They do have stories. You're talking 50 hours. I don't have 50 hours. I could write a book in 50 hours. Like that's a problem. Like I don't know where to find 50 hours to play a game. I'd rather watch, a couple seasons of something.
Let me help you out here. You know that time you spend with your wife? Games.
Is that how you win the marriage?
That is how you win the marriage.
You guys have anything cool this week?
I'll take the cop out and say that I just told you my something cool, which I hadn't planned, which was my son
Oh well,
wanting
that
to
is something
write a
cool.
game.
Fallout 4, that's my cool thing.
Well, you just stole that from Cindy, you fucker.
I was posting about it on Twitter and Facebook, like when the video, like 5 seconds after the video was released.
Was that
all
before
over
or
it.
after you cleaned up?
During.
During.
Well, I didn't clean up because I knew I would just masturbate again immediately, like within,
Why
it was
isn't
ready.
this the first relaunch show?
Oh, it's not? I thought it was.
Welcome if this is your first time with the SPP, by the way. My cool thing is Sense8. Have you watched any of that yet?
Not yet.
I don't even
I don't
know
have
what
time
it
for
is.
that. I've been writing.
Yeah, see, that's the whole point. Like, the whole Sense8, that's like a fourth of a video game, the whole season. But yeah, I haven't seen much of it. I'm 3 episodes into it. Sense8 is the new Netflix show from the Wachowski brothers. And it's
They're not
ambitious.
still brothers, are they?
Well, okay, siblings. The Wachowski siblings.
Doesn't have the same ring.
No, it's Andy and Lana now, instead of Andy and Larry. But and they definitely have carried that theme into Sense8. There's a transgender character, and it's very well done. I don't mean the whole show. I mean the transgender character. Although the show
These
is
damn liberals trying to shove their transgender gay stuff down our
This is
throats.
the biggest travesty since the Lego movie was making people be Democrats.
It does have the most graphic gay sex scene I've ever seen. I'm sure there's more.
You mean
graphic.
outside of a CI title?
I gotta go watch it.
Right. Well, I've never watched Queer as Folk, but
Really?
yeah, I just never caught it. Although the guys from Queer as Folk the showrunners did a panel at ATX TV festival that I went to last weekend. That was called the Final Finale, and it was a bunch of showrunners who they were talking about how hard it is to write that last show. The last show.
Well,
of the
I know
last
it.
season. And so, which is exactly where we are right now with Yesterday's Gone. And so.
Although I heard you did well, Dave. I heard good things from Sean.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I don't want that to be a spoiler that Dave did well, so sorry everybody, I just ruined that.
He just said that so I wouldn't kill myself.
Dave was thinking about suicide this week, but it didn't happen. We're all safe. But no, it was a really graphic scene that surprised me how graphic it was. But anyway, the show at large is it's cool because this show would not exist on a network because the whole point of a pilot is to really grab you by the balls and keep you watching. This does not do that. The pilot is demanding on the viewer. It doesn't hold your hand at all. You kind of just have to be patient and wait for the show to find its feet.
So it's not going to get a second season, you're saying?
Well,
No,
but is the argument that because it's a binge sort of experience, you have a longer time to hook the reader? Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Because we just watched the third episode last night, and it's really starting to like I see where it's going. The basic premise is that there's 8 people on the planet who are all kind of sharing consciousness, and so which is a premise I love. Like I love how ambitious they are, and I love
There's a lot of ayahuasca use in there.
Yes, they did talk about ayahuasca in the first episode.
It's the Illuminati, man!
They do. They talk about ayahuasca. It was awesome.
Ayahuasca Joe.
Ayahuasca Joe is not in it, but they do mention
He's writing it.
they do mention it. But in typical Wachowski fashion, it's gorgeous. I mean, it's just a beautiful looking series, and it's very ambitious. I'm really curious to see where it goes. But if you don't like, or if you're a patient viewer and you like really big concepts and you're patient, it's absolutely worth checking it out. By next week, I'll have finished the season, and I'll be able to really give it a thumbs up or thumbs down. But right now, it's a tentative thumbs way up.
That's. I remember thinking when I watched Mulholland Drive that David Lynch had some big. By the way, I realize this is the second balls comment. I'm not trying to exclude you, ladies. It's just how I'm focusing. I said that dude had some big balls in that movie because it's like 60% of the movie before you realize that they're like acting badly on purpose or something, and it's just like. Well, I know that Naomi Watts, for one, is a better actress than this. What the fuck is up with this movie? And I'm just thinking, I'm imagining like. You gotta hang in there. Like that's a movie that you need if you like it at all. You've watched the whole thing and suffered through all of this badness, and then you say, okay, I think I'm gonna look something up on the internet, and then you go and look stuff up, and you think about it a little bit, and you're like, okay, maybe I liked it. Maybe I'll watch it again. It's just like, wow.
Like Birdemic.
I like that right from.
I love Mulholland. Yeah, Mulholland was.
But did you what the fuck over the beginning?
Well, yes and no. I mean, yes, I did, but I also it's David Lynch, so I knew that it was. I knew I had to be patient. You know what I've been kind of itchy to see again is Upstream Color.
Best movie ever.
I love that movie. Like I love that movie, and for some reason,
maybe I need to watch it again to figure out if I liked it or didn't like it.
The soundtrack is good to write to.
I've written to that soundtrack. It's really good. I think I heard an interview with him a few weeks ago, and ever since then I've been really just wanting to watch it. There's a movie he tried to get made.
Call him up for our interview show. It's forthcoming.
I would love to interview that guy. In fact, he talked about Mulholland Drive in this interview, and he talked about actually it wasn't Mulholland Drive. He was talking about David Lynch, and he was contrasting because the interviewer was asking him a lot of questions about Primer and Upstream Color and this other movie he tried to get made called Topiary that didn't get made. That sounds like awesome. Dave, sounds like you would love this movie. It's about like these people they find a machine that can help them make organic monsters.
I'm all over that.
Right.
No, like no preservatives, no GMOs.
Yeah, I'm tired of these GMO monsters. I mean,
gluten-free monsters.
Monsanto is shoving them down our throat, man.
It's held a table. Right there. So anyway, he was talking about how David Lynch won't explain anything, but his whole purpose, he wants to be able to explain everything in his films. And he wasn't knocking David Lynch at all. He was saying, that guy's just a pure artist, and I'm more of a craftsman. Like I want to know how everything fits together. And anyway, it was a really interesting interview, and I've just been kind of dying to see the movie again ever since.
We have something cool in our comments section. Thomas Bennett. Thomas Bennett says, "My something
Stay
cool
tuned for Thomas.
BOU," but that may not be cool. Yeah, BOU jumped the shark a long time. What, episode 1?
Yeah, that was the Birdemic one? Yeah, it was episode 1.
I think so. Another thing that Thomas knows a lot about, I'm looking forward to getting into on the BOU is covers, which is something that I can't figure out, like book covers. Like that dude is a fucking ninja, and I'm like, I have no idea what to do with book covers.
Well, the thing is, Thomas probably knows what all of our listeners know. All of our listeners, except apparently Johnny. And that is, if you want a great book cover, you go to 99designs.com/SPP. They've got designers there waiting to make the best cover possible for you. We've used them several times.
Waiting in chains or waiting under their own free volition? Do we know?
I believe it's under their own free will. They don't use slave designers anymore.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's all people that want to do designs, and every time we've used them, I mean, we've worried like, oh, there's no way they can do this. There's no way they can do 12. But they do. The Dark Crossings cover was like impossible for me to get right. Guy nailed it out of the park. It was a beautiful cover, very professional. They look just like bestseller covers that you see on Amazon. And if you want to compete with other books on Amazon, on Apple, on Kobo, or Barnes & Noble, all these places where you are competing, we're all competing. This is one big thing. We work together, yeah, but we're also competing with other books. And you want your book to look as good as possible. You go to 99designs.com.
Are you guys as excited as I am for the time when we've used them 99 times, and then we can line up the 99 designs that we've had done on 99 designs?
That would be pretty fantastic.
All right, so start your custom design at 99designs.com/SPP, and you just have everything to lose is all the only...
No, you have nothing to lose! Stop! Get it right, man! Nothing to lose!
Nothing to lose. You can just walk away and drop the mic and say, that's it, I'm out.
Watch it blow up behind you, man.
There you go. Like an Olive Garden.
How have we done all of these 99 Designs ads, and to my recollection, we have never done any...
They still keep hiring us? Is that what you're going with?
No, I was more wondering how come we've never tied in 99 red balloons with
Oh, I think I might have. 99
red love balloons.
We really need to.
Dan, you're Dan today. Dave's doing the German version, so
I noticed the original
one.
That's because he thinks the other one's a cop out.
Yeah.
Just start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP, and you'll get the free Power Pack upgrade, valued at $99. Get you more designer time and attention. So there you go. So and look at that. We are right on time. Like, look at this professionalism.
This is a taste of the new SPP, y'all.
It's not cooler. It's just a little bit more organized.
Yeah.
So, hi, Justin.
Hi, Justin.
Welcome to the show.
Justin.
We came close to professional.
Forget it. Show's over, man.
This is the sort of shit that Audrey's going to be able to...
You've ruined the show, Justin. You've ruined the fucking show. Goodbye.
Wow. So much anger.
Wow. Oh, man. Somebody thinks they have something to lose.
Now.
There you go.
Oh, okay. The show is saved, Justin. Thank God.
All right.
We're going to start the whole thing over.
Yay.
It's working?
Yes.
It's working.
Yes. Okay.
Awesome.
So the problem is I'm not using a headset now, so if the volume is bad, I apologize.
Oh, it sounds good.
Okay, it's the headset's fault. Blame Xbox.
Damn you, Xbox.
All right. So as I said in the intro, Justin's on the show to talk about a handful of things. Like I said...
Let me fluff Justin up a bit right here. Okay,
go ahead and do it.
Justin is a writer for Telltale Games. I think he started on episode 5 for the Game of Thrones.
For Game of Thrones, and before that I was on Tales from the Borderlands, and a little bit of Minecraft. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you did the Minecraft thing. That's not out yet, is it?
It's not, but it is announced, so I'm breaking any rules.
Oh, okay. I can't wait. Oh, that's gonna be awesome. Okay. Anyway,
Game of Thrones. Dave all cummy.
I'm just gonna leave. We'll do what Dave does to us normally.
Well, the first Telltale Games I played was the Walking Dead game, and that was just heartbreaking and awesome in every single way. The thing about Telltale Games is that it's kind of like a choose-your-own-adventure sort of game, where there's choices, and the choices have consequences, and it's just you're afraid. You don't know what to do. It's like you're almost like there in the like most games, like you figure, okay, a lot of games don't have all these branching narratives. If you screw up, they're going to put you back on the right path. Most of them, anyway. Not all of them. Witcher 3 is pretty fucked up, too. But, Game of Thrones, I played the first one so far. And, like, every choice that I have to make, I'm like, oh, shit, I'm going to get somebody killed, because that's how Game of Thrones is. Good people are going to die. And,
in life.
Yeah, in life, too. So it's just it's amazing stuff, and when heard about Justin, I was like, yeah, I definitely want to talk to him because I think the writing for video games has got to be like the coolest thing ever, right?
Of course.
So how did you come to write for Telltale? How did they find you, or did you like stalk them, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so it works out nice that I live right in the area. That wasn't how, though. I was doing a bunch of writing like you guys are doing on the side, writing novels and screenplays and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I, of course, liked video games. But this just happened because I was at my old job, and I was at this point where I was like, you know what? I can't handle another minute of not writing during the day. Like 8 hours a day doing something else is spent not being creative, and that's pissing me off. And so I talked to my wife, and we decided that as of May 31st last year, it was do or die time. Like I was just going to walk out the door and just do what you guys are doing and just write from home, whatever, Starbucks, find some buddies, do it. But at the time, I was also, hardcore applying for whatever I could, connecting with people on LinkedIn, connecting with people at like Pixar and other places I thought maybe I'd want to work at. And one of the guys from Pixar moved over.
Way to aim low.
What's that?
Sean said, way to aim low.
Yeah. Yeah, so one of the guys moved over from Pixar to Telltale, and I saw that they had a writer position and applied for it. And I'd never met the guy, but I had emailed him a couple times asking for advice, just generic, like, hey, nice to meet you type stuff. And turned out that he would be my boss if I got hired. And long story short, I got hired.
Cool. So how is it writing like these branching narratives where you have to kind of, I mean, there's like limited choices. I mean, you can't have like 50,000 different endings and stuff. But I mean, all these endings kind of, all these different things sort of do stack up. Is it difficult to track? I mean, they got to have somebody like, they have somebody there like, okay, don't screw this up, and they have like a million testers making sure it doesn't break the game. How does it work?
Of course, all of the above. A simple answer that I can give to, because it was something that I found out about before I started working there, was online you can actually Google, the Telltale like Walking Dead style structure, and somebody did a whole chart where it's like, comes down, branches out, comes down, goes around, goes over here, comes back together, and so if you look at that, you'll see that yeah, there's an insane amount of choices, and yes, it does branch out, and sometimes people die and don't ever come back, and sometimes they don't, so there's all that. But generically, most of these games, like our game, Life is Strange, Beyond Two Souls, I think was one. Most of them all come back to kind of the same points, and then maybe branch out really big at the end. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you couldn't just go like a real choose your own adventure book, or it'd just be too insane to.
Yeah, but there is a sense of consequence, and when you're responsible for somebody getting killed, you feel it in a game. It's like. So. It's like, oh damn! And one of the things that the Telltale games do is that they make you go back and replay to see, if I did something different, how would that have turned out?
So you are one of those players. I always wonder.
I am.
People keep saying that at work, and I'm like, people don't do that. People don't. But okay, now I know David Wright does it.
I wish I could do that with my life, to be quite honest.
I always just look it up on YouTube later. That's the easy way.
So okay, so video games are clearly really evolving in their narratives. Like that's happened a lot. Do you guys remember the Matrix games right after Reloaded when they came out, and they tried really hard to do something cool and it didn't work, but they had.
I wasn't playing back then. I had zero time back then.
Well, they had like Animatrix, which came out.
I'm sorry. Can we just pause and say Dave has a bunch of time right now? Like what? What was that conclusion?
I don't know.
Oh, I didn't have time back when I was working at a gas station.
That's probably before you started writing all the books that he wanted to write.
Yeah, I took a lot of load off his.
Well, back then I was also drawing comics, and that was like 4 to 5 hours a day, every single day that I was doing it. So it was a bitch.
Yeah, can I back up a second? And on that topic, I actually had been pursuing the storyboard artist route too. And that's one of the big things that Pixar, why I was looking there. And so it kind of ties into this whole topic that people have been talking about lately about pursuing your passions and like following your dreams, and you have to do the one thing you love. And I just wanted to kind of throw that out there because on the podcast Script Notes with John August and Craig Mazin, they were talking about that recently, about how you don't need to do what you love. And I'm just throwing it out there as maybe there's multiple things you can love, and multiple passions you can follow. And like you were doing the comics thing, and I was trying to do storyboard art, and man, that takes up a lot of time. So I feel you on that one.
Well, I don't think it's about doing the one thing that you love. I think it's about not doing things that you don't love. Not,
Right.
stay away from the things that you hate or that make you miserable or that are soul sucking.
And find people that'll pay you for one of the things that you love.
Right. So like I want to make movies like that. I want to do that someday, but clearly we're not ready to do that. In the meantime, there's a lot of other things that we really love that we can, do that to take our baby steps. But anyway, it's the whole idea of transmedia, right? Where the Wachowski brothers, which we were actually talking about them earlier, they've always been really ambitious. They've always tried to do really cool things. And when Reloaded and Revolutions were coming out, they did a whole thing where they had a video game that told part of the story, and they had the Animatrix, which were a bunch of animated shorts that told part of the story, and they said, okay, you can't just get the whole story by watching the movies. We're doing these different forms of media to tell the larger story. So how do you think that because I still think that ebooks are kind of really in their infancy. I don't think we've seen what they can do. They're going to turn into some other form of entertainment the same way games have. So do you think that games are going to be influencing the way that stories are told, the way stories have influenced the way games are developed?
I think so, especially, our style games, for anybody who hasn't played them, they're very much like watching a movie. I've actually heard Craig Mazin, when he mentioned us on his podcast last week, he said, when I watched the game. He didn't say when he played the game. So it's very much, an interactive story, as well as some of these other games like Life is Strange are. And in that sense, with the interactivity and there's this, I'm trying to think of this website, so my eyes are going like this every once in a while. Anybody who writes games knows it, and for some reason I'm just blanking. But it's one where you can go through there and write these interactive stories and make choices, and it goes in these different kind of branching paths. And when I was taking some classes at Johns Hopkins, the teacher did this whole part on interactivity, and there's people doing short stories on websites now where it's kind of that same idea, and then they have moments where it is kind of like gameplay, but they're still calling it short stories. And so it's really interesting, and I'd love to. I think somebody was doing this recently, but I was thinking, oh, how fun would it be to make an ebook that is for children, with pictures, and then they can select things, and that's kind of like choose your own adventure, but much more advanced, kind of like a Telltale game, but for kids and just a story.
There's a few iPod apps. There's a few iPod apps that do that really well. I think that the basic ebook structure. There are some ebooks that are doing it. I think it's pretty difficult technologically to pull off, but definitely it is doable.
And I think it's going to get more advanced. And one thing I've been hearing from a lot of the people who are trying to come into Telltale, because as I was saying, it's kind of like even the writing style, it's very much just like writing a screenplay, except for that you branch out in all these different ways. You have to think about everything that the character's doing in multiple paths. But what I was saying is a lot of people that are coming here are coming from LA, and they're people who were screenwriting for 10 years in Hollywood and have some good credits to their name and wrote on some awesome TV shows and whatnot. And if all those people are starting to move over here because they see this as the new creative path, then you have to think at some point that's going to be influencing how the other side is doing it as well.
So can I play the role of the guy who doesn't know what the hell is going on and goes, and asks the questions?
Play the role.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So I'm not a gamer. Like I play Super Mario Brothers with my kids, and that's about it. And there's not a lot of story there. So when you're talking about I'm just
what?
Well, that's right. There's a guy plumber went down into the sewer.
What about Mario RPG? Wasn't that? There's story there, I'm sure.
There are magic mushrooms, Johnny.
There's some Mario fanfic people that would differ to agree with me, Johnny.
So but I'm wondering what the process is like, because it feels like it would be somewhere maybe a little bit like what we do with ebooks, a little bit like a screenplay, because there's a player. Like, I don't even understand how that would work. What's the process of writing for a game like when you've got somebody who's got the controls?
Yeah, and so there's different ways. This is a good chance for me to I have a bunch of books in here, but this is one that I wrote recently. I don't know if you can see it for the people who are on YouTube, but it's called Creative Writing Career. And a lot of it's my advice about breaking in and whatnot, but a lot of it's interviews with other people, including gamers, screenwriters, book writers. And the point of bringing that up is it's so different on different styles of games. So you have the games like Mario or the regular AAA games that are like Assassin's Creed and all these, and you have our style. And sometimes as a writer, you'll go into these game companies and you'll be writing descriptions of walls and different things that characters can look at, and what the interior monologue will be if they pick up a pen and say, "Oh, whoa, look at this fancy pen."
That sounds like the opposite of fun.
Yeah. Some people, I mean, at the point when I was trying to break in, I would have taken that in a heartbeat, right? Because it's writing and it's getting paid to write, and that's what matters. But at our job, it's really at Telltale and some of these other very narrative-driven companies. It's 100% just like writing a book or a screenplay. You go in there, you're thinking, what are the characters? What are the arcs? Where's this going to go? The hard part is for us, we do 5 episodes in a game or 6 for Game of Thrones. And per season, I mean, and then we have multiple seasons, so kind of like your books, but, you know. So the way that we approach it then is, of course, everyone has to be divided into, like, the 2-hour-ish episode that goes into that 5-episode or 6-episode season. So obviously much more complicated than writing a screenplay, but maybe about the same as writing a novel, except for then you have to go in and think, okay, my character here could react, he wants revenge, or here he could be more strategic instead, or he might take this other where he's trying to get the friend route. And what's fun about that as a writer is, you know, normally you'd probably think about that for your character, but you might not delve into it. And here you really have to delve into it 100% so that the player really feels it. And what I like about that as a writer is that really makes you know your characters 100% because you're going to know what your characters are going to do in every situation. You can't just like have them make choices that aren't for their character either. You know, it has to be, every choice has to fit that character exactly. Otherwise, the player is going to be like, well, my character wouldn't do that. What the hell is this? It's not just the player choice, but it's the character choice as well. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to imagine if it's either awesome, like as a writer, or annoying. Like I know it's got to be one of the two. Where like, well, so I kind of want to, because you know, in the middle of the beam, like a character is going to do something or not. And if you have to explore both of those options, I'm just trying to like, how do you even keep all the loose ends together?
Well, it's just different. And what do you write in? I mean, I know you can't do this in Word, right? Like, how do you keep track of all the threads?
Nobody should do anything in Word.
Well, that kind of ties in. So I'm going to talk about my process because, of course, like one thing we can't talk about, I think, is the specifics of like how Telltale does it. So without getting into trouble, I'll just say
proprietary software and stuff.
Yeah, proprietary software. But what I like to do, per Johnny's question, is I generally write it in Word first and just like one throughput. Like one A to Z, what would be the choices that I feel natural, and then what I like to do is go back, and we work with designers, so it's not just the writer. So usually I'll go back through and work with the designer to see how they want to do it or whatnot. But I always take my first just pass at the scene for what I think it could be, even if it's totally different from the end product, just to get that flow, like you're saying, and understand who the character is. And then you really have to go back through and explore each of those other paths. So it's not like it diverts me from my path in the first place because I get that down, but then you're really just more exploring the character throughout. And then you have to go back through and do another pass probably to see where that scene ended up in all those different paths because they all have to connect, like you said. So, and that's really up to us, just going through it over and over and over again and making sure the rewrite.
Yeah. And not only are you dealing with you're not just dealing with making characters believable, you're dealing with an existing universe of characters that has a fandom that is absolutely, rabid. So you really got you got Tyrion in there, you got all these different characters from the show and the books, and you have to make them true to life as well. And when you guys were writing it, did you play with the knowledge that people had of these characters? Like when you're given a choice as the character you're playing, because you play multiple characters in this game, but when character A, the character you're controlling, is meeting like Tyrion or somebody else, and they're given a choice, I mean, are you playing with the knowledge that people have of that character in how they're going to respond? Like, oh yeah, I know this guy's a liar, I'm not going to trust him. Like, do you play with that knowledge at all? Or twist it to mess with people's heads?
So that's a tough one. I'd say when watching the first episode of Game of Thrones on YouTube and seeing people's responses, what's interesting is if you do too much of that, players might not know what's going on because some of them haven't watched Game of Thrones or read the books. So as a diehard fan, it's kind of why I started writing. 50% of why I started writing back in the days, I read the books, I loved them, I wanted to write more books like that, or I want to read more books like that, so I decided to start. My writing, of course, is nothing like that, but that's what kind of got me into it. But not everybody's me, and so you're watching this, and they're like, I don't know what's going on, why are they talking about some wedding, or some, whatever, the Cersei and her children, I don't understand it. So I would like to do that more, but you can't because the player won't comprehend all of it. So really, you should try to focus on what you could use in the game and maybe hint at a little earlier in the game. If you want to use that about, like, say, Ramsay, who everybody who watches the show and read the book, spoiler, he likes to hunt women and
Will there be an opportunity in the game that I could use his head as a soccer ball? I'm really looking forward to that. Please
let's
make
just
that happen.
pray for that. I mean, the thing is, yeah. Well, I'll just stop myself because I was going to say something about my space and
More so than other types of writing, this seems like it's super collaborative, which I love. We love, like we're collaborative artists. But how many people are there working on any given game? How many writers? How many artists? How many programmers? Like this is a big process, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I know the answer to that. A good answer is that it's always changing, and there are a lot. So it's not just like, and some games differ. So for example, my buddy worked on Assassin's Creed 2. He's one of the guys I interviewed, and he was telling me about it. Basically, they had designers kind of set it up with like everything you're going to be doing, running around assassinating people, and then they brought him in to write the whole story to fit around that. So then there was like one writer.
So basically, that game in particular came set piece first.
Yeah. And then you have like other games that it's hand in hand. Like us, it's hand in hand, designer, writer all along. And that's why at the beginning of each episode you see two people's names, the writer and the designer. It says like something like story by or Telltale Game by or something like that.
And how many writers work per story?
It's similar where it's multiple. I mean, not similar to Assassin's Creed at all. Here it's very much just a bunch of writers go at it. And it's been anywhere from like, anywhere from one writer. And I'm my brain stops once in a while to make sure I'm allowed to say things. But since you can look at past episodes and see who's credited, there's been some episodes where it's been just one writer who writes the whole episode, or there's others where it's like you'll see 7 or 10 writers credited on that episode because they were just all going at it, at different points. And usually there'll be 1 or 2 main writers who, corral it all, keep all the tone and voice and all that.
Like a showrunner?
Yeah, kind of. And they're the people that you'll see at that front where it says game by, story by.
And how difficult is that process when you're trying to tell one story, but you have all these different branches, and what you wrote, how do you get that to always jive with what somebody else wrote, or is that just part of the process? Like some branches you have to throw away because they don't quite work, or they conflict with what person Z over here is doing with person X?
I'd say in writing games, more than writing your own fiction, you definitely throw out a lot of scenes that because you'll be writing stuff here that, like you're saying, somebody else hasn't quite worked on yet. That said, I worked with a screenwriting partner a few times, and similar things happen where you write a scene that might be over here because you're not always working in order or you can't work fast enough. I've also worked where it's A to Z, but it's to get it done fast, maybe like the screenwriter B will be working on this scene and I'll be working on this scene, or vice versa. And it's very similar in the collaborative sense, and usually, maybe not usually, but a lot of the times the 2 writers will be working together, and it won't be like this big humongous group of them, And when there's still usually like a main 1 or 2 that's going to be corralling it all.
Now we probably should get to what's relevant to our listeners here, and that's the topic of today's show, and that is...
I did add writing for games to the topic, so I did a little ninja thing where now it's all on topic.
Okay, cool. So your book, Becoming Creative Writing Career, Becoming a Writer of Movies, Video Games, and Books, what suggestions do you have for people that want to break into this, and especially while keeping their day job, because it is difficult to just quit and devote all of your time to it. We've all done it, but it takes some work to get to that point.
Yeah, and I really respect you guys for doing it the way you did it, where you're just going hardcore with the fiction. I probably would have gone that route, asterisk. But for this, it's really, I was doing, like I mentioned, I was working the full time. I was an Asia analyst at the Federal Reserve Bank, so totally different stuff, looking at political and economic, what's going on in Taiwan and India. Fun.
Wow. That's a laugh riot.
A little different. And but like I was saying, I was like, man, I gotta get in there. So what I was doing on the side was everything I could. I was doing little internships. I did an internship at like a literary magazine. I did one at a literary management company. So I was looking at manuscripts as they came in and assessing to see if they were marketable. I was doing a weekend program at Johns Hopkins University, a master's in writing. I was doing a UCLA, has an awesome program. If anybody's interested in screenwriting, you could do it. I think it's the online program's like $3,500 for a year, and it's great because you get like 6 people. You meet on Skype, so it's kind of like this where you just giving each other feedback, and you have awesome teachers who've written on stuff like I did the sitcom program, so there were teachers who did shows like The Wonder Years and Simpsons and whatnot. And so you're getting to pick these guys' brains and hear feedback from them. So a lot of it is basically all tying into, I'd say, setting up your web presence to be who you want to be. I had Federal Reserve. I was in the Marines for 5 years. I was in the government for a little while, and I've done a bunch of other internships at Treasury Department and whatnot. But the point was, if that's all on my LinkedIn or on my website, everybody who sees that is going to be confused and think, who's this guy? This guy wants to apply at Telltale? Well, he's all over the place. I don't know who he is. So it's really doing all the stuff that you think will make you who you want to be and making sure that that is represented by your web presence. I'd say that's the main thing. And then, kind of tying back into that passion thing, making sure that that is your passion too, because you don't, like I was doing the storyboard part, and I was putting a little bit of energy into making my web presence go that way as well. I was starting like a Tumblr or whatever that website is, and started putting some stuff out there and taking some classes. But I realized real quick, and thanks to a lot of people I met on LinkedIn and met for coffee and whatnot, that wasn't the best path for me. That if I wanted to be a writer, why am I trying this other path that I think, because I was an artist, so I was like, oh, maybe that's an easier way to get in. But no, if you want, in my case, they all encouraged me and I decided and it worked. If you want to be a writer, go out there and write. Stop trying to distract yourself with all these other goals. So yeah, not distracting yourself, setting yourself up. And the networking, like through LinkedIn, through going to conferences, Austin Film Festival, not South by Southwest, which I'm sure is also awesome, but Austin Film Festival is like this really focused on screenwriting, small, all the big wigs go there, a great one to go to. Here we have the San Francisco Writers Conference for novel writing and self-publishers and whatnot, and just going to these places and networking, getting to know the right people, doing it online. I think it's easier for me online to network because you can target who you're going to network. You reach out to the person who was in the story department at Pixar, and you say, can we get coffee? And then if you go to a bar at a conference, you might meet that person after 5 hours and 10 beers, but by then you're going to
them.
yeah, it's going to be not the same experience, But I advocate both and all avenues you can. I think I'll stop right there. Mostly, the networking, the setting up who you want to be, and following your passion.
Well, I think that's really.
What about stalking people and sending them like photos of their children at school and say, we got to meet, or else something bad's going to happen?
We all get that. I've gotten a lot more of not stalking, but the awkward, approaches now that I'm here, because, when I was at Federal Reserve, less people cared to take my job. All those things. Now I'm here, and you get these people who email you with just awkward, like, hey, hello, can you help me? Can you get me $1 million to raise my project, or just weird stuff for film, or just weird. Like one guy approached me. I don't want no names, and I won't be too specific, but he was like, yeah, I really want to work in like games and maybe film. And I checked out his website, and it had nothing to do with this stuff. So and he included it on the bottom.
I'm sorry, I was in the middle of redesigning the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that theme.
That's really, really solid advice. That you want to get your web presence out. Kind of groom it to. It's your business card. If this is going to be when people go and Google you and they go look you up, what image are you putting out there? And if you're scattered, it doesn't matter what you're doing now. It's what you want to do, and that's kind of it's dressing for success. Right? You wear the clothes that you want to associate with who you want to be, and your website, your online profile, that's your outfit, and you want to look, you want to be dressed correctly for people because you are going to be judged, and that's how they're deciding if there's going to be interest. So if you're looking, I like how you've handled this, because you said, this is my dream, I want to do this. But I don't want to jump into the deep end without a life preserver because it's stupid. Which we've never been accused of not being stupid, right? So you've done it in a really intelligent way. You've gone out there and you've said, okay, this is what I need to do to dress for success and to get a job where I could be paid to do things that I love, but I can slowly stoke this fire in the background. It's really smart. It's a smart
to be fair, I had a wife and daughter, and now a son at the time, so I would have liked to go that route, and we were thinking about it because my wife
had all those things.
Yeah. Well, okay. Then I accept it. Thank you. But I was going to also add that if you can find some kind of niche, we just finished the second book, and it's coming online July 4th, and it's called Military Veterans and Creative Careers. It's basically the exact same thing as this book, but it's interviews with people who are acting and writing for film and video games and producing and directing and whatnot. And it's interviews, advice first, and then interviews with all these different people. And my point there being that, like, if you can find your niche to target, like, veterans have this thing called Veterans in Film and Television. And so it's this whole networking group where they just get together all the time and like, hey, you got any gigs I can get involved with? Can I screenwrite this for you? Can I act in your movie? So if you can find any kind of niche, you might not all have served in the military, and that's fine. But if you have something else that you can target, use it to your advantage, right?
Most people don't know this, but Dave used to be a Navy SEAL.
I can tell.
No, I was a SEAL. That's what I was.
That's why he wears the black.
Well, most people who get out of the military tend to grow beards and whatnot because, you know, it's fighting their old side, right?
We soldiers don't like to brag about our past. I'll just leave it at that. All right. Sean, stop bringing it up.
Sorry.
So this may overlap a little bit with what you said, but I'm just thinking of the big juicy topic that I put as the episode title at first, the idea of writing well, keeping your day job. Actually, when you emailed that to us, well was in caps. Well, because, yeah, I mean, a lot of people do. Like, people can't afford to just jump a lot of the times. And so what advice do you have on that?
Yeah. So my advice on that, have you guys read The 4-Hour Workweek?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. Which, you know, kind of goes, there's multiple sides to it. One is if you can take your lunch break and go write, why aren't you? You know, at least 2 or 3 days a week. Schedule a couple days a week to meet up with colleagues and friends and whatnot, so you're networking at work and keeping your friendships alive. But if you can go, I do that now. I go out for like 45 minutes and just bust out as much as I can. I was waking up, you know, for a while I was doing editing at night and then waking up early to write. But with kids, now I have to wake up at like 4 to write when I'm doing it, because I still have to write my own fiction. I can't just do the video games, although it's awesome. There's something burning, you know, you got to get it out. And I think that's all big parts of it. And at the time, like I was saying, I wanted to build up that resume, so I reached out to see what kind of internships I could do. The one for the literary management company, they were really awesome. The guy was, I think his son was getting ready to join the Marines, so he's like, oh, Marine, hell yeah. So he got me in there to do, I think I only was required to do like 4 hours a week, but I could do up to, you know, 20 or 30 or whatever. So if you can find something like that that lets you get the experience and, you know, be reading all these manuscripts coming in and hearing from agents what they want, that's an awesome way to go, because, you know, it doesn't take that much of a time commitment and adds to your resume.
So you're basically putting yourself in a position where you're going to thrive and grow, even if you're not getting, you know, a very immediate result. Like, okay, here's your paycheck for this. You're either learning, or you're networking, or you're doing something that is constantly kind of stacking the deck in your favor.
Exactly, and I think this is kind of oversaid, but I'll say it anyway, is that, you know, if you have a job that's not too exhausting, but, you know, still uses a different part of your brain than creative, it's great, because you come home and your creative juices are ready to just explode all over the page. You know what I'm saying? So I think that was a great thing about those jobs, is I wasn't like, you know, my brother's construction and plumbing and all those kind of truck driver. Those jobs will kill you. You come home from that and you're working 12-hour days sometimes, you're not going to be able to write probably. Maybe if you're awesome, but not me. So if you can get some kind of job where you're still able to come home at the end of the day and write, or like Brandon Sanderson, one of my favorite authors, Mistborn, he was a hotel guy at night where there was nobody coming in, you know, worked the front desk, so he just wrote while he was at work. If you can get a job like that, hey, or 4-hour work week, if you can do your work in 4 hours throughout the week and the rest of the time just be writing and your boss doesn't fire you, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was my experience. I was a gas station attendant working graveyard shifts forever, and I wrote and drew a lot then. And then I got a job as a bookkeeper, then a credit manager of a company. It was a hectic, crazy job, and I didn't get a lot of creative time during the job because I was pretty damn busy chasing down people for money. But when I got home, I would draw, and I would spend, you know, 4 or 5 hours, like I said, and it felt good. But then I got a job as a newspaper reporter. It was kind of like, wow, I get to finally write for a living. I'm writing facts, though, so it's completely different. It's not, like, very creative. And I worked like 60 hours a week a lot of times, and I was exhausted. And when I came home, I didn't want to do anything creative at all because I was already writing all damn day. So during that time, I was doing that for 3 years. My creativity suffered immensely for it. So. Yeah,
and I'll join you there in saying that. So working here now in games, you know, and I'm on Game of Thrones, which is, like I say, my passion project. So it's been kind of harder to come home and write my own stuff because I'm being creative all day. But what's awesome is I've had so much stuff that I've written in the past that hasn't been published, and I've been going through and editing that, which is a totally different part of my brain in a way, and then putting that out there. So a lot of the books you'll see me publish now, like I'm doing an episodic one also. It's the first book I ever wrote. It's probably, it's awesome, but also it's the first book I ever wrote. So it's like that's a lot in certain ways. Yeah. So, but it's fun to just go back and start editing stuff that you maybe thought you threw away, but you don't have the creative juices to write right now. Maybe pull up something like that, and even if you're not going to publish it, it's going to keep your writing life alive, so you don't get lazy and bad.
No, you keep the knife sharp.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very true.
And can I be the bad guy too to say that a lot of people use the excuse of I'm too exhausted to write, and they really should just knock it the fuck off. Like, I mean, honestly, a lot of us can. A lot of people can write, and they don't. Like, I mean, really. So Sean's story, we've told this before. He's got a lot going on. Like, kind of enough that when I gave him something today, he's like, when the fuck am I going to fit that in? And he was writing new fiction. Like, what was tell the story. What was the streak? And you would write for just a half an hour a day or something, and you had a book's worth.
Yeah. So I basically said I really wanted to start writing because I spent a lot of last year not writing at all, and I thought there's no excuse for that just because I'm outlining and editing and polishing. That's the missing slice. Like, I don't want to lose that. And so when I was starting this year, that was on my list of things to improve. I'm going to write every day. And so I started on January 1st, and I wrote January 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and then didn't write for 3 weeks. And I thought, oh my God, I suck. I really have
like
to
my diet.
You're right.
Or your day schedule.
That too.
Right. So my birthday was January 23rd, and I said, okay, no excuses. I'm gonna write now. I'm gonna do this every day, and I'm big on streaks. Like, I have to write every day because if I stop one day, then it's really easy to stop the next day and the third day. So I have to go every day no matter what. And I said I need to write 30 minutes. If I do half an hour, I can bang out 1,000 words. They may be terrible, and I'll need to spend a lot of time editing later, but I just need to get that in and keep the knife sharp. And so I did that. And by the time Johnny was coming in April for our event, and I was like in the bathroom writing, so I wouldn't wake my wife up, and the house was, quiet, and I'm in the bathroom on the toilet typing to get my 1,000 words in the day because I need to get it in for the day. And same thing. I was even traveling and making sure I got my words in, and to this day I've hit my words every single day. And there's 150,000 words so far since my birthday.
And if you think Sean is fat, and if you could do a third of his speed, that's still 50,000 words, which is a smallish book.
Right, and the point is, it's not about how many words I got in that time. It's the consistency. It's only 30 minutes a day. And I think everybody can, if you're serious and you're saying, I want to be a writer, then you need to make 30 minutes a day. That's not an unreasonable expectation for yourself. And just be consistent, because 30 minutes a day may be 300 words, but over a year, that adds up. That's a full-length novel. And don't let another year go by where you just don't do it and you think about doing it, because really that's just mental masturbation.
Yeah, and you guys are the kings of this, but I'll throw it in there too to encourage anybody, if I can, is that when I get up at 4 a.m. sometimes and write, sometimes it's after getting 2 or 3 hours of sleep because my kids are waking up sick or whatever, but I still do it because I just refuse not to. And then, I forgot what else I was going to say, but that's just encourage, do it.
Yeah.
All right, we had a question. Kate Morgan asks, so how does one go about getting a gig writing for video games? It sounds like crazy fun as well as challenging. Is there a wanted poster? I mean, not a wanted poster.
Actually, because I was asking this a lot to the people I interviewed for the books. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But I was asking a lot of the people that I interviewed this question because I want to make sure, this isn't just a one-time gig, but it's a career, that it moves forward. And the hard part is that most answers are through networking. It's through going to GDC, the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco. I forget when it is. I think March-ish, a few months ago. And that's the big one. You go there and you network, and you just, if you impress the right people, and a lot of times there's always recruiters there from the big companies. You go to there and you talk to them. But a lot of it's like the stuff we talked about too, about building up that resume and making sure that you're conveying the right image. But a lot of times it's going to networking events and meeting the recruiters or the writers or the right people, like the producer.
Okay, I just got to interrupt for a second. When you go to these events, I think a lot of people, when they go to events to network, they go about it all wrong. They'll like bring like a stack of books and just hand them to the person. Hey, hire me. What is the right way to actually impress these people or get them interested enough to look at you? You're not going to hand them your book, right?
Right, correct. The other side of that answer is, though, real quick, there are jobs out there that are announced, like the Telltale writing jobs, and you can directly apply, and you don't have to know somebody to get in there. There's a few people for sure that didn't know people that got in. So back to the networking thing, if you can Pocket Gems is a little company out there that was doing this game called Episode or something. It's like an app for iPad and Android, and it's not to the extent that Telltale is, but it's on that episodic little level. It's for like teenage girls or something. If you can even do little things like that, that's the way to do it. And then you go to these conferences and you just approach people, just say, I want to say hi, do you mind maybe getting your contact? Could reach out to you and ask some questions or stuff like that. I'm always open to that. Some people are jerks and say, don't you know who I am? Don't ever talk to me. Don't ask for a business card. And I know people who are like that or heard stories about people like that. But the main point is do it anyway. It's like, playing the numbers game, hitting on girls at bars. You got to do it. You got to go up and ask for a business card, give them yours. I think I'm I'm perfectly open to that, and most people I know are. And like you said, it's not just like, hey, will you look at my screenplay, or will you look at my game I did, but it's trying to create that kind of relationship and just being open to saying, are you open to, if I send you an email later to ask you a question, or if I hear about an opening, to check in with you to maybe look at my resume. And sometimes it's okay to, ask. Sometimes it's okay to ask if they'll look at your screenplay or book or whatever, but usually the answer is going to be no, because we're all super busy. Like you guys were, Sean was talking.
One of the things I see people that network well do is they don't come up to somebody with a request. They come up with something that they can do for them.
Mm.
Now I don't know what it would be in this specific circumstance. Maybe you can. If you're in this position, you can think of something that you can offer that person. But I think that bring value to the situation, not just wanting something.
Yeah, I don't really know if I've ever had that situation. What I've had is like where I just, kind of more just go up and ask generically about like advice about getting into the industry, kind of like the conversations we're having right now. Mm. And if you strike a chord, then that relationship kind of expands naturally. The counter to that is I know a guy who's doing well in the video game industry and film and a little bit of comic books, and he does that where he reaches out to people or meets people in person and says, hey, I write. Are there any projects you have that I could get involved in? I'm happy to do it for free. And he throws that out there, and it's gotten him lots of jobs. I haven't done it. I don't know. It feels weird to me. Hey, can I write for you? But I probably will someday when I get the balls.
Go ahead, Johnny.
Okay.
Oh, I was just going to say, well, I know we need to wrap up. So, in closing, is there one special nugget of advice, or we're all really big fans of making mistakes and failing forward. Is there a big mistake that you can save everybody else from that you made while trying to make a living while still working, or in video games? Either path. But is there either a mistake to avoid or something that you for sure want to do that we haven't talked about or addressed?
Don't make Hitler the hero.
I would just say, the stuff we already talked about, of course, but to not reiterate myself about networking and making the right image so you don't embarrass yourself. If you do get in, one thing that I felt I did kind of weird at first was I thought I had to open my mouth to make an impression, because my old boss told me when I first started with her I didn't open my mouth enough. So I came here and started doing that, and in hindsight I feel like I should not have done. I should have, waited a little bit, put my ear to the door and listened. So I'd say don't be afraid to do what you feel is natural in any of these circumstances, however it applies, and always, feel free to reach out to your peers and ask. But let's say if you get a job in the game industry, don't be afraid to sit there and listen for a little bit before trying to throw your opinions around. Just because story, it's such a different world when it comes to these narrative branching and all that. And I'd also like to say that I just did my first book on the draft to digital, thanks to you guys. So we'll see how that goes. I'm really curious about what he said about the 99 cents and the 60%. Is that for real? Anybody tested that yet?
No, he he'd better retract that shit if he lied to us. So I'm sure it's real.
Because I mean, like, it's still 60% of there, but so then they're saying that Amazon still gives them their full, and then they take their 10, the full 70.
Well, no, they don't distribute to Amazon.
Yeah, it wasn't
The other-
Amazon.
Oh, the other ones. Okay. Yeah, I didn't do it through Amazon. I have it on Amazon still, and then I'm doing it through them for the first free of the episode, like you guys have done a lot of. You guys are, you know all this. Your listeners know all this, but I just wanted to say thank you. You guys are awesome, and I've gotten a lot of great advice from you too, just like everybody else here.
Oh, our pleasure.
Oh, well, we
Thanks
can
for
never
saying
hear that enough. I can never hear that enough. All right, so Justin's book is Creative Writing Career, Becoming a Writer of Movies, Video, Games, and Books. Justin Sloan, S-L-O-A-N. Anything else that you want to tell anybody about?
Hey, I might try to do this giveaway. It's like, this is a bunch of stuff. You're not going to see all these, but boom. Anybody like Stephen Pressfield, The Art of War? I got 5 of his books here, Turning Pro, The War of Art, etc. If anybody wants those, and I'm going to throw in there like a signed copy of my book. Email me, find out. I haven't decided how I'm going to do it yet, so anybody who wants to tell me how I should do it, feel free also.
Well, most organized giveaway ever. Yeah, I got shit here. You guys
That
want
was
it?
the
Email me.
sloppiest CTA in 3 years of this show.
3. I'm going to do 3.
Someone's emailing you right now. I got an idea. Just send them to me.
I figured I would just ask you guys what you guys think I should do for that, because I got 3 sets of those, of like all those books. I was like, I'm going to just give these away to people who, follow my blog or whatever, get on my authors list. And I'm horrible at that thing, so I love all the advice you guys give on the setting up your, what do you call it, the author list.
You literally want them to email you? Like, do you really want to give out your email address? Or do you want to give us a URL that you can hurry and create something at before the show goes?
Yeah, I got a website, justinmsloan.com. I have another one called creativewritingcareer.com. One's my blog, Justin M. Sloan's my personal website, Twitter, Justin M. Sloan, and I don't care if people email me. A lot of people are against that. I'll get through it eventually. sloanartist@gmail.com. I'm open to it.
Wow, that's some ballsy shit right there. So that's really
that's how I made it. So I feel like people should be able to reach out to me too and the same idea. I'm happy to give as much advice as I can until I burn out.
Oh, it's fantastic.
That's right around the corner, man.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Justin, for being on the show, and thanks everybody for listening to the Self Publishing Podcast. Looking for new and improved. Enjoy this outro, because this intro and outro won't be done this way anymore. Coming up soon. So thanks everybody for listening, and we will see you all next week.